and welcome to the November 3rd, 2021 legislative session of the Penfield Town Board. And I'll officially call this meeting to order. And I'll ask everyone in the auditorium to please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'll ask our clerk to please call the roll.
Draw.
Here.
Cole.
Here.
LaFountain.
Present.
Moore.
Here.
Akadin.
Here. All right, this evening we have a public hearing, and I'll ask our clerk to please read the notice for that public hearing.
To allow an office and emergency food cupboard at 1771 Penfield Road, located in the Four Corners zoning district. The legal was published in the Penfield Post on October 14th, 2021, posted on the town website and town clerk bulletin board. 15 postcards were mailed.
Thank you. And Mr. Horowitz, is this properly before the board?
Yes, it is.
All right, thank you very much. And Mr. Costello, if you may, give us just a brief intro on this application, and then we'll invite the applicants up to the table.
Thank you. And they can approach the table now as I'm speaking. Back on September 22nd, the board actually met with Kathy and Duncan to discuss the possibility of utilizing 1771 Penfield Road for the purpose of the Penfield Hope Office/emergency food cupboard. The use is a conditionally permitted use within the district. The board gave them direction to move forward with an application. I've been working with Duncan for the last couple of months, and I think he's got everything in place. So we are here for our public hearing, and Duncan, I'll let you go ahead and give your presentation.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate all the effort, and we look forward to serving the community and continuing to do that in this new location.
Excuse me, Duncan, just for the record, could you please tell us your last name?
Sure. My name is Duncan Harris.
Thank you.
Thank you. So just to let everyone know a little bit about Penfield Hope, and I'll invite Kathy and Father Jim to talk as well, and we'll make this very brief for you. Penfield Hope is about addressing the unmet needs of the Penfield community and those surrounding communities. And our hope in our plans and what we're doing today is addressing those needs through meaningful encounters and services. I'll let Kathy talk a little bit about some of the services that we now offer and will continue.
Okay. So we talked a little bit the last time, about our primary function is not as a food pantry, though we do provide emergency food. But typically we meet with clients one at a time, maybe 2 or 3 at most, but each would be meeting individually with a team of volunteers. And the idea is that we really try to explore what the issues are that have brought them to us in the first place. So what is the issue underlying their need for food? Is there other financial assistance that they need, particularly in the area of rent? So one of our primary objectives is really to keep people stable in their housing, particularly families. So that would be one of the first things we always explore with people. And we do have a grant through the Emergency Solutions Grant through the county and the city of Rochester so that we can provide rent assistance. We also do some direct bill pay with people. We also collect new children's clothing, which is a really nice thing that we're able to do. The community is incredibly generous so that we can provide little wardrobes for children, diapers, all that kind of good stuff that families need. So we try to just be as comprehensive as we can when we meet with clients, but also as collaborative as we can be with others in the community, particularly the Penfield Ecumenical Food Shelf. When a family has an ongoing need for food, they're referred there.
What we try and do is link up services, and as Kathy said, family stability is what we're really looking for, looking to extend for the community. So we want to draw on. We don't try and do it all, but there's so many resources within our community that we try and link them up and also allow the clients to advocate and seek family stability for their own. And I'll ask Father Jim just to talk a little bit about his experience with Penfield Hope.
Yes, as a ministry of St. Joseph's Church, what we're excited about is that this is not just bringing people into the four walls of our church, but it is our desire to go out and to serve the needs of people in need in the town of Penfield. It is our desire to really be a community service, helping people, getting to know them, getting to know their needs, and providing a stability and more quality of life into their lives through rental assistance where that is needed. We're helping them develop job resumes to help them seek employment, to provide emergency food, as Kathy is saying, not in competition anyway with the very good work of the Penfield Ecumenical Food Shelf, but furniture, helping babies, diapers, and whatnot. But the idea is for us to reach out into the community and to provide assistance in any way that we can to people in need in Penfield. First and foremost, by getting to know them and establishing a relationship with them, and from there, how can we provide stability to the life, quality of life to them. And I think by going to 1771 Penfield Road, it enables us to develop more exposure, to be more visible, and to be more of assistance to people in need, that rather than tucked away in the basement of the office of St. Joseph's.
So it's going to enable us to enhance our services, and the parish community of St. Joseph's has been so wonderful, really has formed the basis of Penfield Hope. But at the same time, we want to reassure everyone, anyone is open to addressing and coming for support to Penfield Hope. We won't turn anyone away. There's no mandate about religion, race, anyone is welcome, and that's what we want to address. Looking at what the needs of the community are, and that basically anyone who needs support can find it here.
I think one other thing, just talking with Debbie before the meeting, I mean, the other thing that is a benefit is all the various volunteer opportunities that it creates, from people who just want to stock food on shelves to people who want to learn how to sit down and meet with people and learn about services that they can connect them to. There's just no end to the amount of volunteers that we can work with, but also I think we've got like 3 calls today about people wanting to volunteer. So that's another really nice benefit for the community.
Yeah, and touching into what Kathy is saying, it just reaches out to the goodness of people that we know, and that when they have an opportunity to help and to serve, especially people in need, it's amazing and it's beautiful how many people step forward and really want to be a part of Penfield Hope, and as the word says, to provide hope for people's lives.
So for the record, for our viewing audience, this particular property, 1771, is located just west of Mott's Lane that comes out onto Route 441, and is known as the Pitnero property. And as we spoke when you were here about 3 weeks ago, it's something that you're looking to do as a rental, a lease at this point, and yes, if things work out, the potential or the opportunity to possibly acquire the property as well. So we did vet a lot of that information out at that time with the board. So at this point, board, and before we open it up to the audience, because the purpose of a public hearing is to hear from the audience, board questions for Kathy Camp, Duncan Harris, Father Jim Schwartz about this property or this operation.
Well, we talked about it a lot last time, but, for the record, you have enough parking. You're not having a lot of people come at once, right?
No, there's appointments are scheduled, and so the parking is very adequate for what we're doing.
And don't I recall you on the bus route, so that was good too for clients?
Right.
Probably volunteers.
Yep.
And I think a couple of other things you mentioned at the time, certainly helping those individuals that may be looking to fill out a job application, having access to computer, internet type of service. helping individuals or families at the holiday time, when at that particular time there is an extra special need for individuals and families for a whole host of reasons. And then I think one of the other things that struck my mind is even to our youngest residents, those residents that might be getting ready for school, that might not be able to have the resources to be able to have supplies, backpacks, and things like that. So as you described it when you were here before, it really is a very broad range for residents, young to senior and everything in between.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Board, other questions or comments at this time?
One other question, Mr. Supervisor. To hours of operation, you mentioned them before to us. Are they?
So yeah, we
tell us again?
are open specifically to clients. Right now, it's Mondays 3 to 5, Tuesdays 6 to 8, and Thursdays 10 to 12. When we actually reopen in this space, we're looking to expand that to at least a total of 8 hours, so probably add an hour here and there.
But the hours would be typical, sort of early evening and during the day.
Great, thank you, yes.
Okay. So at this time, purpose of a public hearing is to hear from the public. And I'll ask our clerk, has anyone signed up to speak on this particular matter?
Before I say that, Kathy, what's your last name, please?
Camp with a K, K-A-M-P.
Thank you. We do not have anyone signed up for this public hearing.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll log on to the computer here. We'll see if we have anyone. And I'll ask, is there anyone in the audience that did not sign up but would like to address the board on this particular matter? Okay, and again, let me just update our information here on the magic computer, and we'll see if we have any phone calls or emails that have come in. And at this point, there is no one with any emails, and there currently are no calls on this item either. So I'll then ask the board, is there any additional questions for the team from St. Joe's? All right, Mr. Costello, I'll ask, is there anything that should be added to the record that we haven't either received from the St. Joe's representatives or discussed either at our work session or tonight's meeting?
Yes, thank you. As you see, I do have the sign proposed by Duncan for the site. Excuse me. The sign is a freestanding sign that would go to the front of the yard. It is well within compliance with our size requirements, and he would request that you approve this sign package as part of the approval process.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Costello. Any additional comments for the record?
No, thank you.
All right, and then I'll ask Kathy, Duncan, Father Jim, any additional input, feedback for the board on this particular project?
Just that we very much appreciate your support, or your anticipated support, and that it's a wonderful way that we can work together in serving the needs of our community.
Excellent. So that's a great segue to what's next. So the next opportunity that the board will discuss this matter will be next Wednesday. You can do that a couple of different ways. If you'd like to come back and join us, you can do that. You can watch streaming live video on the Penfield website, penfield.org. Or if you happen to have cable TV, 1303 up the dial, and that will be broadcast live as well. And the board will then discuss the matter and talk about what the next steps are for the approval process.
Okay, thanks very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Great. Father, thank you for coming. It's always a pleasure to see you, sir.
Thank you.
Duncan, Kathy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Be well and be safe.
Thank you all.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda. That's communications and announcements, and I'll recognize the town clerk for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Extended application period for the deer management permits began this past Monday. The DMPs at this point are first come, first served, and can only be purchased in person and not over the phone or the internet. The list of available leftover DMPs will be updated each day on the Department of Environmental Conservation website, and you may also call the DMP hotline at 1-866-472-4332 for all information you need for your DMPs. Also, there is one other thing. I'd just like to thank everyone who voted in this year's general election. The turnout was more than a lot of people expected. Congratulations to the Penfield team for a great win, and thank you for putting your trust and faith in me and our whole team. And I look forward to serving my community and working with our elected officials and town employees for another 4 years.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilperson Draw.
No announcements, Mr. Supervisor.
All right. Mr. Ockenden?
None tonight, thank you.
All right. Mr. Moore?
All set, thank you.
Councilperson Cole?
No announcements.
All right, very good. We'll move on to public participation. There are 2 opportunities to address the board on any matter at this time, and then again at the end of the agenda. You can do that one of 3 ways. If you're here in the auditorium, you can call in at 340-8771, or you can log on at penfield.org, and we'll get an email here. So with that, I'll ask our clerk, has anyone signed up to speak to the board on any matter?
Yes, Sir Ronald Reitz. Sorry, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening. Ron Reitz, 1689 Scribner Road. Go ahead. So I come before you tonight to talk to you to get some advice, some feedback on an issue I have regarding a fence that I'm in the process of constructing on my property. Not sure how much you folks know about this situation at the moment, but I do have a code violation that's been issued against me, against the fence that I'm trying to install because of an issue with the height. The fence I propose to put up is a deer fence, meant to exclude deer from a garden area that I'm constructing. The fence that I've researched and would like to install is an 8-foot high fence, something that's directed, or experts in the field say that that's the proper height for such a purpose. And again, I'm taking that advice, or I took that advice and went out and purchased these materials, again, with the intent of installing this fence. The code violation, or a violation was written against me because it was taller than 6 feet. And we've had a back and forth dialogue. Jim's been part of this discussion for going on 5-6 weeks now that we've been talking the issue. At the heart of the matter is a clause in the town code book, section 250.7-1, paragraph D in particular, that limits the height of fences to 6 feet. But in that paragraph, it ends with an exception. These restrictions are not applicable to fences erected for farm purposes. I'm claiming my garden, this area that I'm trying to enclose, represents farm purposes. And in my opinion, I think I have a valid point. It's been told many times to be that no, that's not how farm purposes are defined. I've requested a definition for farm purposes as used in the code book, and none of that's been offered to me. I'm a bit frustrated with that point. I'm not here to cause any trouble. I did my research with the town code of the regulations regarding the matter, and I believe I'm correct in my understanding of the code that my garden area on a rather large lot, and that, although that's immaterial, satisfies the definitions. Again, the code enforcement officer disagrees with me, issued me the violation, and we're stuck on this. I'm to the point where, well, not that it's a matter of principle, but it is. unless I can be convinced that farm purposes as written up in the code book means something entirely different than what I'm thinking, I believe I'm correct in what I'm doing. And so I'm coming before the town board now to request a definition for farm purposes.
Sure. I'll be more than happy to take a crack at that. I've been involved with the town for, this is my 46th year. I started as an employee, moved on to an appointed official as chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals, town board, county legislator, and now town supervisor. I will tell you that the interpretation that has been made during that time is that farm purposes really apply to those operations that is their primary business. They raise products, they sell products, they distribute products and things like that. And that fencing on residential property has been limited to 6 feet. There is always in town code, there is always an opportunity to appeal that. So whether it's the decision of an authorized official, like a building inspector, an elected official, or other persons within the operation of the town, you can appeal to the Zoning Board of Appeals to argue and to state why you believe it should be something more than 6 feet, and that your particular residential property is classified as a farming operation.
I can appreciate those words, but respectfully, I disagree with the notion that a farming entity has to exist to raise money for monetary gain. And those weren't your words, but I'm of the opinion that the code book is well written, that the words contained within that code book should be taken at face value. The definition that I'm disputing, again, there's words in the code book, there are specific terms defined, and there's also the disclaimer in the code book right up front in that word usage that says ordinary definitions apply when they're not specifically defined. You're giving me an interpretation, a thought process that certainly is valid, but ordinary purposes, for lack of a better definition, I'm saying I have to go to the dictionary. Common usage, again, I believe is a term used there. So if I go to my dictionary sources, my internet, none of what I find there tells me that I have to gain make my livelihood from that farm entity. So my daughter and I, we've discussed starting our little farm in the backyard. My house sits on a 5-acre lot. There's customary agricultural operations that are defined that I'm entitled to, and farming, agriculture, that's all together in terms of these definitions. I understand your point that I have the option to go and ask for a variance. I don't believe I need to ask for a variance because things are defined in the code book. I don't want a variance. I don't want. Sorry, I don't think I should have to burden myself with that process of asking for a variance. The financial aspect of it, the having to pay for an application, having to pay for the sign that I need to post in my front lawn. Again, those are things that go beyond what's written in the code book.
Okay. All right. We may have to agree to disagree, I think is where we are. There is, as I understand it, currently a stop work order placed on your property.
Correct.
So there is, life's about choice. So There's the opportunity to build the 6-foot fence. There is an opportunity to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals and ask for a variance, or there is the option to go ahead and build the 8-foot fence, but that comes with some penalties. So, I'll ask Mr. Horowitz if he has any additional comments that he would like to weigh in on. But as I see it, those seem to be the three opportunities or choices that are facing you with this item.
So that kind of leads into part two of my issue with this whole ordeal, that it has been a strong-handed approach that I've been dealt by the town that says, here's the way it is, comply. I can think.
Or go to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Well,
I mean, there is that appeals process that is built into the town code, and part of that process to appeal, again, whether it's a decision of the authorized official, if you don't believe that the town code is appropriate or specific enough, there is that option of going to the zoning board for a ruling. And I understand you're saying that that's something you don't feel you have to do. So again, it gets back to, what direction would you like to go?
I would just add, in the course of going to the Zoning Board of Appeals, you certainly can put forth your definition and what you think should be the appropriate definition.
And Mr. Horowitz, so I don't get dinged by...
sorry.
Thank you. If you would, into the microphone, thank you very much.
So just to repeat for our viewing audience, if you should decide to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals, you have every right to present your argument that your definition is the one that should carry the day, and they will listen to you. And I can't predict what they would do, but in light of what the town supervisor has said in 46 years of interpretation, it's been respectfully different than yours. Not to say that your definition is completely off the wall, but the town's interpretation for all this time has been what you've been told by the building department, Mr. Costello, and Mr. Supervisor. So good luck to you.
Mr. Wright, real quick, maybe a solution would be just to put up the 6-foot fence and see if that works. I mean, we all drive around town and we see, gardens and people growing food and stuff like that with some form of fencing to, help the deer not get into what they're growing, and maybe a start would be start with that 6-foot fence and just see if that works, or if that doesn't work, as a potential simple solution moving forward.
Valid point, and although I do have an 8-foot roll of fencing sitting on my property waiting to be put up, so I've already purchased that, and it'd be difficult to modify that. And also, I'm told that the fence posts that are part of my fence also need to be cut down to 6 feet, so I wouldn't have, if I were to find that I need the 8-foot fence, I'd have to go and redo all that in the future. Besides that, though, there's a perfect example of a garden fence right around the corner from me, the Penfield Community Garden, which has a fence taller than 6 feet that I'm told wasn't permitted or wasn't given a variance when it was installed, and I could be mistaken on that, but that information was given me with a disclaimer that, well, the town doesn't have to follow its own rules. That just smacks me of hypocrisy that the town doesn't have to do it, but I do, and I don't appreciate that.
Well, I'll say to you that, the town should lead by example. And so if that is an issue, that's definitely something that we can take a look at.
one moment while I consult my notes, because I had a nice script written, and I chose to go off and talk things a little differently. If I leave now, I leave with well, not achieving my purpose in coming here to get a definition of farm purposes. Your words, well, maybe I do have that. You're telling me that it's an agricultural entity that's geared for profit, or that's set up for profit. And yes, we agree to disagree, but I vehemently disagree that approach, because the wording in the town code says, excuse me while so I don't say something wrong, except where specifically defined herein, all words in this chapter shall carry their customary meanings. And again, that's what I'm pulling out of the dictionary. A farm is a tract of land devoted to agricultural purposes. Agriculture is relating to or concerned with agriculture. Agriculture is a science or art or practice of cultivating soil, producing crops, and raising livestock, and in varying degrees the preparation and marketing of the resulting products. It doesn't say that I have to earn my living or do that thing for profit. And I'm trying to keep it as simple as I can, and it gets embellished along the way here when I've spoken with my town officials. So that's what brought me out here tonight. For me to leave right now, given what you've said, it doesn't provide me with any satisfaction. It still leaves that thing hanging above my head. What is a farm purpose? And somebody else, and actually I know of a neighbor down the road from me on Scribner Road. He's in a similar situation this year. He put up a fence. His fence is only 6 feet tall. However, he put up posts at the corners of gates and things that exceed the 6-foot limit. He's going to have the same situation. So I know he's watching over my shoulder, listening to this proceeding closely.
Ron, that person that you're referring to, as you know, the building inspectors have met with him on a couple of occasions, and he is reducing the size of his fence posts. They've made that agreement with him, so, and he's agreed to do it, and he has to do it if he wants to keep the process the way it is. And actually, this board is really not the board having jurisdiction over interpretation or definition. This is the governing body of the town, but the Zoning Board of Appeals is a quasi-judicial board that has the jurisdiction to make that determination of what a definition is. And as you and I talked, you don't necessarily have to ask for a variance, although I'd recommend that you ask for that as well, but you could also ask for an interpretation as to how they interpret that section of the code. And that might be helpful.
But again, we've had this discussion that puts a burden on me to prove my point, and I don't think that's the way the government should be run, the way the town, especially a case as simple as this. And in our conversations with the inspectors, the point came up that if you were to allow me to go forward with my 8-foot fence, that would set a bad precedent that any Joe could come in and erect a taller than 6-foot fence on their property, and now I've set the precedence, you'd have to allow that. I don't agree with that. I think the town, the inspectors, the code enforcement people are smart enough to know the difference between an unobtrusive fence, as I'm proposing, a wire mesh that would not be visible from the road, as opposed to a stockade fence 10 feet tall to shield a hot tub or whatever. And it's that same trust that I'm allowing you to have to make that judgment, that I would expect would see this in the light that I'm presenting it, that it's a garden fence that on Scribner Road, the proximity to Shadow Pines, the open area in that area, it's ripe for deer, for wildlife. And I didn't bring you photographs, but that's another thing my daughter and I do. We take pictures of the deer, the turkeys, all that roam in the area. One of the announcements was with regard to the DEC and the permits for hunting deer. They are a nuisance in my part of the town. I don't think there's any argument there. I can't have a garden without some sort of protection. The Cornell Cooperative Extension, they've published a paper, and the preferred method right at the top of the paper is to erect an 8-foot fence. And they go on to say 6, 7 feet are fine for casual mitigation, but if the conditions present itself, if there's a hard winter or whatever, they need their food, they're going to get over that fence. That's why they recommend an 8-foot fence. So again, the experts are recommending this. It's on a plot of land that years ago was farmed, if I'm not mistaken. Granted, that's stretching back before the Halls owned the property, but it is farmland. I can't see any reason why such a structure wouldn't be allowed. And again, to claim precedence is, in my opinion, silly. To say that I'm not making money off of it, well, that's silly too. If that were the case, I'd say I'd promise to set up my roadside stand with my daughter and sell tomatoes next year. I'll even offer up a complimentary quart of cherry tomatoes or whatever, but
well, I thought of one more alternative than going to the zoning board or putting up a 6-foot fence and seeing how that goes, as Mr. Moore had indicated, or just go ahead and put up the 8-foot fence and go from there. Another alternative is that this board could take this offline. They could take a look at it. If they believe that there needs to be a change in the ordinance, we could do that. That's probably a 3 to 4 month process to go through, because there would have to be public hearings and things like that. So that's another alternative that this board could take a look. That's not saying that anything is going to change, but that is yet another alternative to explore.
okay, I'll consider that as an option. Actually, that does appeal to me, because, again, I think the code book is written in an appropriate manner. I think I'm interpreting it in an appropriate manner. I think the violation that's been written up against me isn't appropriate.
And that's why we have the zoning board, and that's why we have courts, because there is probably any piece of legislation you could look to find different interpretations, different people, different attorneys, and what have you. And so hence why there are zoning board of appeals and courts that can rule. Both sides can present their particular argument, and then the individual with the robe ends up making the final decision.
Okay, I guess I'll discuss that with Jim and pursue that a little further, because that's at the moment that's the only thing that appeals to me.
The only thing I would caution you is not to continue going through and putting up an 8-foot fence or working under a stop work order, because that has other consequences.
Understood, and I haven't violated that.
Yep. No, and I
have no intention
I appreciate
on doing
that, and I would expect that you wouldn't. But I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't at least mention that, so that you were aware of that.
So if I were to pursue that, and if that were to pan out, then you're saying that the code would be rewritten, or a change?
The code may be rewritten. The code may be rewritten to be more stringent or less stringent, or consideration of things like deer management and different things like that. And from time to time, this board does take a look, as a legislative body. They take a look at the ordinance, and on any given year, we'll go through and make either changes or updates, again, based on information, other changes to state or federal law, things that are brought to our attention that may not be appropriate or may need some reconsideration and things like that. So the code book, while it doesn't, there's not wholesale changes, there are regular reviews that are done and presented to this board by staff, Mr. Costello, and various department heads, by the town attorney and consulting attorneys, and this board as well. And so that's not something that is uncommon, and again, but it is not a process that happens overnight either.
Understood. If I may ask for you to go over one other item then before I give you back your session.
Okay.
Your comment about the commercial entity and as it relates to a farm and farm purposes, could you reiterate that for me, please?
So I think what I'd indicated is that in the past, the staff, building department, town general operations, town board, town attorneys have not considered single residential properties to be commercial operations serving the general public, growing, that being part of the livelihood and what have you. We've had folks come in for different reasons. Could be privacy, could be for deer management, it could be for a host of different things. And the code calls for a 6-foot fence. That's been the interpretation over the years, over the decades, that at least I can speak to. And any change or alteration to that requires an application to the Zoning Board of Appeals. So that's an option. The option is to comply with the code. And then again, if you believe that the code is just not factual or appropriate, or you believe that there is some room to make some changes to that, that's something that you can present to this board, and this board can take that under advisement and review, and may or may not make changes.
So that still leaves me, well, I struggle with farm purposes and all that you've said. Good words, good, well said and everything, but it doesn't give me direction. Let me ask it this way: in your experience, in your many years serving the town, have you ever, to your knowledge, granted without going to the Zoning Board of Appeals
I cannot recall any time where there was something granted. I mean, for a town board member or for an authorized official to just go ahead and grant something that is restricted or defined in the code.
No, sorry, I said that wrong. For this particular section of the code, for farm purposes, have you ever known a fence being erected for farm purposes greater than 6 feet?
Well, I think there may be a couple of examples that I can think of off the top of my head. I think Oak and Apple, Sweets Corners Road, they're in the business of growing apples and making cider and things like that. I believe that Schutz has some of their fencing may be higher than 6 feet, but again, they're growing. They're an agricultural operation. So there are those type of operations that I can point to. And if we're violating, because I do believe that the town needs to lead by example, if we're not in compliance, then we need to address that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. And so I would encourage you, if to stay in touch with Mr. Costello, and if you would like to make a formal request to this board, then this board will certainly take it under advisement and review, not only with staff but with the town attorney.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for coming in.
You're welcome.
I'll ask our clerk, is there anyone else that signed up to speak to the board this evening?
No one has signed up.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the board on any matter? Mr. Froome, please come forward to one of the tables, if you would, please. Good evening.
Jim Froome, 11 Denonville Ridge. Before I get going, congratulations to all who are coming back January 1st. And to those of you who are leaving, we'll miss you. And that includes the guy on my right there. I think you're still leaving, aren't you?
I am.
Don't, please stay.
No, it's fine.
Guy's a wealth of knowledge.
He is a wealth of knowledge. Yes.
I just have some general comments tonight on some of the, because I've been watching some of your work sessions. I don't know everything that's going on, but my first one is just, I don't know, a couple weeks ago you were talking about some more talk on the food trucks in the county parks, county properties. And my comment, listen to everybody talking on there, is I think it's a great idea. And I think, don't overthink it. In terms of permits and all this stuff, let the marketplace figure it out. If, 3 trucks come to some event and nobody makes any money, well, probably only 1 or 2 will come back the next week. I mean, certainly you have to have some rules and regulations, but my just comment on that is just, I think it's a great idea, and just don't overthink it. I mean, a lot of towns do it, a lot of places do it, and the marketplace kind of figures itself out. I mean, I'm not going to go somewhere where there's too much competition, or I'm going to go there earlier and let them leave, whatever. On the disc golf, I'm 100% for the course, for disc golf on the Shadow Pines property. I know that the first group that came in and talked to you, I think back in February or whatever, I was not able to get a copy of what they laid out. But they, when I met with them the first time or the only time and talked to them, I said, just make sure you leave the walking path, especially since the northern 9, if you will, that 100 acres. That's where most of the people that have strollers, that's where they walk. And during that weekend when they had the 2 weeks ago, I guess it was,
2 or 3 weeks ago,
when they had the fundraiser,
right?
I went over there 2 or 3 times on Saturday and once on Sunday, and every time I went there, it was wet and cold. And there were a lot of people. There were a lot of people playing. I didn't have a map. The Saturday when I was there, I didn't have their map, their layout, but basically, when you leave the clubhouse and went north towards Atlantic, I thought that was laid out pretty well. There was a couple things I'd say you need to work farther away from the cart paths. I mean, the walking paths, assuming they stay there. But I think those were just real simple things. Once you came around, the property is kind of like an L-shaped, if you will. Mm-hmm. And so talking about the bottom of the L that goes over to the north-south portion of Clark Road, which was the old 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th hole. I think the disc golf group took way too many liberties with that spot, because basically there's 3 main back and forths that I go on when I'm back there. I do live right off the course, so I'm over there quite a bit. The holes were going back and forth across there. And in the map, you can't tell where the new paths might be, but from what I can tell, the way those holes are laid out, there's no way you're going to be able to protect the walking paths from having Frisbees flying over their heads. And so I don't know if that's the Parks Department or the Rec Department, whoever does that, but I hope that you guys will go out there and look at it, because of the rain, there were no walkers that weekend. You know, there was some people that live on the one street just to the north there, I forget the name of it. I always want to call it Skyview, but they were walking their dog, and they knew nothing what was going on, and they were trying to walk their dog up the longest hole in the course. And, you know, the people I watched play, I stayed there about 15 minutes. None of them, well, I shouldn't say none of them, there was a fivesome of men, 50 years and younger. Two of them couldn't get there in three, which you do on a par five. They had to throw them as hard as they could, and occasionally, you know, the discs go offline, you know, 10, 20, 30 feet. And that's why I think I hope the town will pay attention to that and make sure. I know they're going to you can do different walk-in paths, but the way they have those, I don't know, I guess it's 7 or 8 on up to the 18th hole, you need to do a little tweak in there. And I think I told somebody this before, but Ellison Park, which has national tournaments, if you draw a boundary around the course, it's about 25 acres. If you draw a boundary around the course as it was for the fundraiser, it's 44 acres. Not twice as big, but it's big. So I think you can get them to noodle that a little bit, and I think they should be, you know, they should be able to figure it out. I think you need to protect those walking paths a little bit. What's the, as you go forward on that, what's the process? I know you talked in the last meeting about funding and all that stuff. In terms of the layout itself, what's the next steps that they go through? Do they work with the rec department on that, or with the board?
Well, it's a combination of our rec department as well as our parks department. Will be working on that, but the final layout and how that all lays out overall will be this board's responsibility.
Okay. Will my comments get to the rec department and the parks department, or do I need to send them an email?
Nope, we can, okay. I mean, you're welcome certainly to do that, but okay. We'll make sure that also gets passed on to Mr. Erkfitz and Mr. Masterton.
Okay. And now I'm going to go on to pickleball, which is the main reason I came. Just want to reiterate, it is the fastest growing sport ever in America, not just the fastest growing sport. NBC, the morning program, at about an hour and 10, 15 minutes into it, they did a segment where they took 6 of the people that are on air, and they went to an indoor court facility, not live, but they'd gone there, and only one of the persons had ever hit a pickleball before. The other 5 were all newbies, and they took a little lesson, and they made a little tournament, a little 5-point tournament, and in the segment, the first part, they just talk about pickleball, and they say everything that I've been saying, and the pickleball people have been saying to you. It's a healthy sport. It's a social sport. Let's see, I wrote there. They had 3 things. It's a healthy, it's competition, it's social for all ages. And when they played, they were terrible. Okay, but it was interesting. They all had fun. And then when they left, if you watch afterwards, and it's about a 6-minute segment, at the tail end when they're back, you know, in the studio talking, 2 of them stayed and kept playing for a while. And, you know, I got the feeling they're all going to take up the sport now. And just around here, I spent about 3-4 hours on the phone today talking to a couple other places that are doing some things similar to what we're talking about, but some things a little bit different. And I don't have time to digest everything they told me. But in the one instance, this was down by Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I think they're in their 3rd year with their courts, and they're adding on for a 2nd or 3rd time. They're getting funding for that. Their club went from the people that joined the club, and it's much different than the other places, but they started out with 250 people, and this past year, until they build more courts, they have 13 courts. They've had to stop membership at 800 people because it's too many.
Sure.
And they have a waiting list of 200 people on that, and they pay, I think he said $30 to be on the waiting list. I mean, that's just how popular it is. It's an upscale community of 30,000 people. So, and just, I don't know how we do this, but I know we're not talking about indoor courts or anything anywhere, but at some point in time, we need to figure out in the east side of Rochester how to get more indoor courts, because I drove down to Ellison today. I was driving by, and it just rained or hailed or whatever that was. And it was 39 degrees on my car.
Right.
And there were 12 people down there playing. All old geezers like me, but there's 12 people down there playing. And down at Fisher's, there was, I looked up their numbers. Fisher's, they make you sign in when you play. So if you're, I think they're up to, I think I actually wrote that down. I don't know what the number is, but they're up to something like 280 people on their reservation, not a, just I'm coming to play list.
Right.
And they had something like 24, 26, 28 people that went inside to play today where they have to pay. There's a Pinnacle Sports facility out there. But they still had 5 or 6 people playing outside in this, in this ridiculous weather. So it's definitely growing. It's been growing for years, and I think, I just want to impress upon you guys to let's get this thing going. Let's figure out how to do it. We're ready, willing to help, and we think we have a good location. So let's figure out how to get that done. And I will remind you, most of you have been on this side anyway. You've been around here a long, long time, and unless I'm reading things wrong, the seniors deserve something here. It's been a long time coming. There's more seniors than there are 5 to 18-year-olds. And the 5 to 18-year-olds have a lot of facilities, and they're going to get more. And it's been tough for us to, we've been hamstringed by not having our paperwork back from the state, so we really can't go to the next level and say, hey, look, we got $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 here to do this. But it's been hard to see a group come in June, and in July, the board says to them, well, if we think this is a good idea, we'll help you. And then a week or 2 or 3 weeks later, we say, yeah, this is going to cost $560,000. Where's the money going to come from? I don't know. But we would like to move forward with you guys to get more details on what we're trying to do. Whether you pay for it or we pay for it, we would just like some more movement that way. Now, in talking on the, I think it was last week, you guys, I think you presented, or Mark Valentine did the latest BME layout.
Right.
You're well aware of my feelings on most of that, and I won't go over all of them, but I do want to reemphasize, I believe most townspeople do not want to see the tree line taken down along Atlantic. And in his latest drawing, I know you guys asked to see an overlay. Well, I know that, I know every inch of the property there. Those trees are going to come down where the kids' playground is. And then they want to put another walking path, right inside that sidewalk, which I don't know why we would want to do that in terms of cost. But I think that I would like to understand how we go forward, the town goes forward, and how we can have a little input into this, because we know roughly where the pickleball courts are going to go. I'm a little confused in that I think I've been talking to you about 12. We'd like to do 20, but 12 is what we think we can raise. On that last drawing, there's 15. Did you tell them to put them in there? Because I didn't.
Well, I would hope that just because you told them that they just didn't automatically go ahead and do that.
Well, I didn't tell them.
We're paying the bill, so I would like to think that this board would have the influence as to what might be added or not added.
Okay.
I think the discussion that took place and some of the input feedback that the board has had is that there needs to be more inclusive facilities across the town for recreation, playgrounds, things like that. And as part of that discussion, that was something that the board at least asked to see and what that might look like.
Okay.
So
the 3 of those were, I don't remember, I think maybe Andrew told me, but those are the wheelchair pickleball courts, basically. Okay. And then the other thing I couldn't tell from the drawing, and I know I asked him about the wheelchair ones when he was talking about it, because they're very large. The other 12 courts, I can't tell, maybe Jim, you know, what size courts were those? I have a feeling they're 60, 30 by 60.
Yeah, I think he was looking at the regulation sizes for national.
Yeah, and because he got the pickleball, the wheelchair courts, he got off that, because I hadn't seen that in their, I got their book. Just as a fine tuning, I would hope that if we go forward and if we're going to fund this, I believe he's got 30 by 60 foot courts, which is the minimum size recommended, and that would be the size if you were going to convert tennis courts. You know, you can get 2 tennis courts, you can get 6 pickleball courts. We've done all our layouts and are talking to everybody about 34 by 64, which is the middle size. 40 by 70 is the tournament. So I don't think that makes any difference in the layout per se. I mean, it's a few feet more here and there, sure. But I guess my question is, as we go forward, is the layout that he presented last week, besides myself making some comments on that, if you guys, do I have to convince you guys to maybe make some suggestions, or I don't know where to go from here in terms of, hey, we'd like the 6 courts on the bottom instead of the top, little things like that. And we definitely, and I'm still, I sent another email to Dolomite about the parking. My fear is they're going to put me off long enough till you guys make a decision to do. And I may be wrong, but I'm hoping that if Dolomite says parking is okay on there and there's no there's no legal or court cases about it, that you guys would definitely consider putting the parking in the 200-foot buffer along Whalen, or am I just flat wrong on that?
Well, as a board, we haven't gone into that level of detail. We've been laying it out based on the fact that there is a 200-foot buffer. Right. And that was one of the conditions that as the town acquired that property. And so the layout for pickleball, other recreational facilities there, has been keeping that in mind. So that's how we've been designing things, or at least conceptually designing things. We haven't gone to the official pen to paper and finalize and everything like that. And one of the challenges I threw out to this board last week is that, for the board to just take a look at that plan and come back prepared next Wednesday with any thoughts, comments, additions, deletions, and what have you overall. I will say you're the, other than many people saying that we need pickleball facilities, you're the only person that has been the design artist for the process. We have not had anyone else that I'm aware of, and staff can correct me if they've had any, but you're the only person that has talked about the layout, what it should look like, how big it should be or not be, location of different things. We get the input from folks that we need pickleball courts, and the more the merrier. So there is going to be that balance that this board's going to have to decide on what is that right, ultimately what is that right number, and what does that ultimately layout look like, and things like that. And then in your letter that you presented in the meeting that we had, and the board has copies of, talks about a number of things, like an agreement similar to what the town has with Little League as to how things work and operate, who's responsible for what, and those types of things. So there's certainly still a number of details to be laid out. But like I say, to date, you're the only person that has come up with any design recommendations.
Are you talking just for the pickleball courts or for that 5 acres?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So I guess my question is, Should I write up some more comments, maybe make some more illustrations and send them to the board so you have them next week when you're talking about it?
If you're welcome to do that, Jim. You know, as we go through here, I get the fact that you may think that we're not moving as quickly as you would like. I will tell you that this board has to take into account the entire community of Penfield, not just one particular individual or one particular group. We try to balance that off to make sure we're doing the right thing to best serve the whole of the community. So, you know, we will certainly welcome your comments and input feedback. But at some point, the rubber's got to meet the road. And I will guarantee you, regardless of what the layout is, we're not going to make everybody happy. I mean, that's just life in general.
No, I understand that. At 6:15 tonight, I received a phone call from the state of New York, and they finally processed our paperwork, and she sent me, I've got paperwork coming in the mail, but she sent me an email so I'd have something so we can get going now. So it looks like we're going to, I think I told you before, we have potentially one very large donor who's given us kind of an A to Z number. And, you know, the A is for this year and maybe the rest following next year, depending how all this works out with everything.
Sure.
I guess once we start raising money for pickleball courts, okay, which, you know, the intended place is Penfield and hopefully Shadow Pines. But unless we know where we're going, I mean, I understand everything you're saying, and you understand I don't like to go so slow. And I'm learning how the town works on these things, but at some point in time, we do need to, I need to, either whether it's the rec department or the parks department, we have to come with some sort of basic agreement. Because if we're going to build the courts, there's, you know, two things we're going to demand. One is an agreement on whether it's a 2-year or 5-year, something like the Little League has, or however it's going to be done. We need some sort of format for that. And secondly, if we are going to fund the full building of the courts, we want a little bit of say in terms of, and I'm not talking about a big deal, but we want a little bit of say of the layout of the courts in terms of, you know, do we want just a block? Do we want an L-shaped or whatever? And there's a lot of different opinions as you go around the country. But for what we have there, we like that L-shaped layout, but we don't want to be jammed in with I mean, again, we're taking maybe 2/3 of an acre now with the bigger courts, but you know, with a half acre in there and that 5 acres, we should be able to have a little space between everything. Those, I mean, I don't think anything are deal breakers. We just need to feel comfortable that, you know, we're going to get something we're all going to be happy with. And that's where, you know, should I start talking to the Parks Department or the Rec Department on, you know, how much time you want, or, you know, what could we, you know, what do we need to do in our management of the courts? I mean, we've already told you they're free. Okay, you don't have to join anything to play. And there's going to be plenty of time for everybody to play. There's going to be time for the town to have leagues. There's going to be time for us to have, you know, league play. But how do we get started on that?
So what I would say is, speaking with the Recreation Department at this time, that certainly is a good casual conversation, but we've got to finalize what this layout's going to be, what is the final number for the courts, all of those types of things. And then I'll tell you that the town will have skin in the game. I mean, it is our property. So the town is going to have skin in the game. So we're not going to get in a situation that the tail is wagging the dog. We got to approach it from a partnership, if you will. And so if you take a look at the relationship we have with Penfield Little League, there are certain things that we do that's contained in the contract, certain things that they do. There are certain things that we put up, maintain, and pay for, and there are certain things that they do as well. So it's been approached as a partnership. So this is how I see this happening, no different than the disc golf. And there is going to be, and if you listened in last week, one of the things I also challenged the board with to start thinking about is, you know, how do we make sure that there is some equity here? So you may be looking for the town to contribute. I'm going to throw out a number, $200,000, for instance. And you know, from a disc golf standpoint, I think you heard at the last meeting they were asking for $86,000. $9,600. So as the town takes a look at this and works with potential groups and uses and things like that, we've got to be fair and balanced as to how we approach that. So at some point, there's going to be a need to have that discussion with a recreation group. I'm not sure that discussion is today or tomorrow. I think we need to finalize, and again, once we get that finalized, then we're going to start to move forward with that. And again, it's probably not going to make everybody happy, but at some point we're going to have to start to move forward. And right now, as I said, the only person that's providing input on layout, design, and what have you is Jim Froome. I have had no one else email me, call me, stop in and say that you need to do this, turn it this way. You need to add this many courts versus that many courts. It needs to be an L shape versus a T shape. So at some point, we're going to have to bring this to some logical closure and then to move forward, or else you're going to be sitting here probably not looking at me, but looking at Marie Cinti talking about this in 22, 23, and beyond. And I think what this board has heard from you is that you would like to get going a lot sooner than 22, 23, 24.
Well, certainly, yeah.
Right?
We'd like to get this done next year. Because, I mean, again, if it's going to be done in 23 and 24, my guess is there will be enough people that come here and talk to you about it. And, I mean, certainly we can get, you know, if you want the squeaky wheel theory, we can get 50 or 100 people to come in here and ask for it.
Well, I don't think that's the case. I think we've heard pretty loud and clear from the community, yourself, but many other people that have come into the board and talked to us collectively as well as individually. So I think this board recognizes there is a need for pickleball courts and, you know, pickleball facility and things like that. Now we need to, again, get the rubber meeting the road, get the design, and to move forward with that. And right.
I agree with you, and we're not trying to be the tail wagging the dog. We're just trying to find out what we need to go forward. In your example you just gave of the disc golf asking for the $8,000 or whatever, and you said $200,000. Were you referring to $200,000 for the pickleball courts, or $200,000 for the parking, or that 5-acre area?
Yeah, you know, again, this board, in fairness to this board, we haven't specifically identified, one, how much money that we are able or willing to put up. What is that used for? What are those potential in-kind services that could be provided, and things like that. So again, that needs to be vetted out. Before we get there, we need to come to a consensus as to what the layout is for that area, for whether it's pickleball, tennis courts, basketball, or is it just pickleball? Is it you know, restroom facility? All those types of things. We need to, because right now we've seen several different versions of that. I know that you have provided a lot of different input and feedback to this board, staff, and to BME. And right now, I don't feel that we're any necessarily much closer than where we need to be. And so one of the things, and one of the reasons why I've asked the board to, you know, take a good hard look at this, so that we can say, okay, this is, we believe this is, you know, what's in the best interest of the community. Let's move forward. And again, as I said, hopefully there is a lot of pleased people, and we don't get too many people that are saying that this is the wrong thing. But we will have some people that will tell us that, you know, hindsight being what it is, or any number of things will tell us that, you know, we missed the mark. And our goal is not to miss the mark at all, and if it is, it's only disruptive to a small handful of people and not the full community.
Okay, well, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Jim. Thanks for coming in. I will just take a moment and check to see if we have anyone waiting here, either on the phone or any emails. And currently, there are no emails or calls. So we'll move on with our agenda. I'll ask the board, is there any additions or deletions to tonight's agenda?
No, sir.
Seeing none. We do have the minutes of September 22nd, 2021 before us, and I would ask for a motion of approval for those minutes.
I'll move those, Mr. Supervisor.
Second.
Moved by Councilperson Draw, seconded by Councilperson Ockenden. And I'll ask any discussion on those minutes. Seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote of approval.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Petitions. Has the town board, town attorney, or town clerk's office received any petitions since our last meeting?
No, sir.
Okay, seeing none. We'll begin our resolutions by function, starting with law and finance, please.
Amendment to Resolution 19T-101, authorization to grant a utility easement to Rochester Gas and Electric at 1070 Penfield Road.
Moved.
Second.
Be it resolved that Resolution 19T-101, adopted on April 3rd, 2019, for the authorization to grant a utility easement to Rochester Gas and Electric at 1070 Penfield Road, did not include the property value for the portion of the property where the easement was requested. Whereas the town assessor has determined that the value of the property requested for said easement located at this address to be $800. Whereas Monroe County contract bid pricing sidewalk replacement would cost $47.50 per linear foot for a total of $3,087.50. Whereas the value of the sidewalk replacement performed by RG&E exceeds the value of the property value by $2,287.50. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board accept the sidewalk replacement in lieu of payment for said easement at 1070 Penfield Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion, board? Seeing no further discussion, I'd ask for a roll call vote, please.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Amendment to Resolution 21T-141, authorization to grant a utility easement to Rochester Gas and Electric at 1164 Whalen Road.
Moved.
Second.
Be resolved that Resolution 21T-141 adopted on July 7th, 2021 for the authorization to grant a utility easement to Rochester Gas and Electric at 1164 Whalen Road did not include property value for the portion of the easement as requested. Whereas the town assessor has determined that the value of the property requested at 1164 Whalen Road to be $2,700. Whereas per Monroe County contract bid pricing, sidewalk replacements would cost $47.50 per linear foot for a total cost of $3,800. Whereas the value of the sidewalk replacement performed by RG&E exceeds the value of the property by $1,100. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Penfield accepts the sidewalk replacement in lieu of payment for said easement at 1164 Whalen Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Board, further discussion?
No, sir.
Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization to grant a utility easement to Rochester Gas and Electric at 2701 Atlantic Avenue.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas Rochester Gas and Electric has requested a 20-foot by 80-foot easement, utility easement on town-owned land at 2701 Atlantic Avenue. Whereas the town assessor has determined that the value of the property requested for said easement at 2701 Atlantic Avenue to be $2,800. Whereas the total value of the sidewalk replacement is referenced in Resolution 21T-201 and 21T-202 exceeds the property value of the corresponding easements by $3,387.50. Whereas the total value of the combined sidewalk replacement by RG&E is still has a savings of $587.50 to the town compared to its assessed value. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board grants RG&E a 20-foot by 80-foot easement, utility easement at 2701 Atlantic Avenue and accepts the sidewalk replacement value in lieu of payment. Be it further resolved that this resolution is adopted subject to a 30-day permissive referendum period, and the town clerk be hereby directed to post and publish a notice in the manner prescribed by law. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Budget transfers in the general fund.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas transfers are necessary within the recreation accounts due to enrollment changes. Whereas a transfer is necessary for the purchasing of a CAD licensing for the engineer department. Whereas the town board desires to have an up-to-date budget in relation to current income and expenditures. Be it resolved that the following 2021 budget transfers be approved. Deer programs for $8,000 to youth programs for $15,000. Senior programs for $5,000, teen programs for $1,000, challenge programs for $1,000, and ArcGIS maintenance for $3,451 to the CAD license upgrade of $3,453. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Proposal for a contract with Archive Social.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas the town of Penfield currently operates several internet-based websites and social media accounts. Whereas the town of Penfield wishes to remain compliant with New York State archives and records retention requirements. Now therefore be it resolved that the town supervisor be authorized to sign a contract not to exceed $6,000 with Archive Social for their professional services. This resolution and the proposal submitted by Archive Social shall constitute the contract. This agreement to be reviewed and approved by the Penfield Town Attorney. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion, board.
No, sir.
Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization for supervisor to sign a license and hold harmless agreement to allow a fence within a drainage easement at 1946 5 Mile Line Road.
Moved.
Second.
Be resolved that the town board of the town of Penfield hereby authorizes the supervisor to sign a license and hold harmless agreement with the owners of the property at 1946 5 Mile Line Road to permit a fence to encroach into a drainage easement to the town of Penfield located at 1946 5 Mile Line Road in a form and substance agreeable to the Penfield Town Attorney. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion. Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Denial of request for an amendment to the zoning ordinance and map to consider rezoning of 5.16 plus or minus acres from limited business to general business of 2218, 2222, and 2226 Penfield Road.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas an application has been received by the Penfield Town Board pursuant to Chapter 250-15.1 of the Code to amend the zoning ordinance and map to rezone 5.16 plus or minus acres from limited business to general business of the properties at 2218, 2222, 2226 Penfield Road. Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Penfield held a public hearing at the Penfield Town Hall on September 22nd, 2021 at 7 p.m. on said date to consider said application and to hear all persons interested in the question of amending the zoning ordinance and map to rezone the properties. Whereas the town board also received documentation from immediate neighbors opposing the requested zoning. Now therefore, be it resolved that the applicant's request to rezone the properties at 2218, 2222, and 2223 Penfield Road from limited business to general business is denied. The board based its decision on the following findings. For the record, Mr. Supervisor, there are approximately 9 direct findings, and then under this resolution, it notes the board further bases its decision on the following, and there's approximately 11 other reasons for denying this zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion by the board. Seeing no further discussion by the board, a roll call vote, please.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Adoption of local law number 1 of 2021 to be entitled a local law opting out of allowing cannabis on-site consumption in the town of Penfield.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas the town board of the town of Penfield proposes to adopt local law 1 of 2021 entitled a local law opting out of allowing cannabis on-site consumption in the town of Penfield. Whereas the purpose of said local law is to allow the town of Penfield to opt out of allowing cannabis on-site consumption sites is authorized under the Cannabis Law Article 4. Whereas the town board of the town of Penfield held a public hearing at the Penfield Town Hall on October 20th, 21 at 7 p.m. on said date to consider said proposal and to hear all persons interested on the question of adopting local law 1 of 2021, and the public hearing was closed and a decision was reserved. Now therefore be it resolved and hereby is enacted by the town board of the town of Penfield as follows. Local law 1 of 2021, hereinafter set forth, town of Penfield local law 1 of 2021, a local law opting out of allowing cannabis on-site consumption sites is authorized under the Cannabis Law Article 4 in the town of Penfield. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Further discussion, board. Seeing no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Awarding the contract for janitorial services at the town hall.
So moved.
Second.
Whereas sealed bids were sought and requested in a manner prescribed by law to furnish the Department of Public Works with a service contract that would provide the town of Penfield with janitorial services at the Penfield Town Hall. The contract bid specifications stated that the agreement will run from January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022. 22, with an option to renew the contract per the same terms and conditions for up to 2 additional terms upon mutual written consent of both parties. And whereas on October 15th, 2021 at 11 a.m. local time, the following sealed bids were received, opened, and read publicly from the following list of suppliers: Clark Building Services, Clean Tech Services, Duran Cleaning Services, GDI Services Incorporated. And whereas the bid received from the Clark Building Services was the lowest bid and meets the expectation and specifications of the bid package for an annual cost of $18,084. And whereas the funds for these services are available in the 2022 Facilities Department budget. So therefore be it resolved that a contract be and hereby is awarded to Clark Building Services, 795 County Line Road, Ontario, New York, to provide janitorial services at the Penfield Town Hall. This resolution and the bid submitted by Clark Building Services shall constitute the contract. This agreement to be reviewed and approved by our town attorney. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion?
No, sir.
Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Awarding the contract for janitorial services at the town library and Department of Public Works.
So moved.
Second.
So sealed bids were sought and requested in a manner prescribed by law to furnish the Department of Public Works with a service contract that would provide the town of Penfield janitorial services at the Penfield Town Library and the Department of Public Works. The contract bid specifications stated that the agreement will run from January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022, with an option to renew the contract per the same terms and conditions for up to 2 additional terms upon written consent of both parties. And on October 15th at 2021 at 11 a.m. local time, the following sealed bids were received, opened, and read publicly from the following list of suppliers: Clark Building Services, Clean Tech Services, Duran Cleaning Services, and JDI Services Incorporated. And whereas the bid received from the Duran Cleaning Services was the lowest bid and meets the expectation and specifications of the bid package for an annual cost of $28,920. And whereas the funds for these services are available in the 2022 Facilities Department and library budgets. So therefore be it resolved that a contract be and hereby is awarded to Duran Cleaning Services 525 Sherburne Road, Webster, New York, to provide janitorial services at the Penfield Town Library and the Department of Public Works. This resolution and the bid submitted by Duran Cleaning shall constitute the contract. This agreement to be reviewed and approved by our town attorney.
Thank you. Further discussion?
No, sir.
See no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Awarding the contract for turf mowing services of various town properties.
So moved.
Second.
Whereas sealed bids were sought and requested in a manner prescribed by law to furnish the Department of Public Works with a service contract that would provide the town of Penfield with turf mowing services for various town properties. And the contract bid specifications stated that the agreement will run from January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2026. And whereas on October 22nd, 2021 at 11 a.m. local time, the following sealed bids were received, opened, and read publicly from the following list of suppliers: Brightview Landscapes, LLC, RM Landscape, and Rochester Lawn Care. The bid received from Brightview Landscapes, LLC was the lowest bid and meets the expectations and specifications of this bid package. And whereas the funds for these services are available in the 2022 DPW Parks Department budget. Therefore, be it resolved that a contract be and hereby is awarded to Brightview Landscapes, LLC, 391 Anthony Street, Schenectady, New York, to provide this turf mowing services for various town properties. This resolution and the bid submitted by Brightview Landscapes shall constitute the contract, and this agreement is to be reviewed and approved by the town attorney. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Further discussion, board?
No, sir.
See no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Amendment to Resolution 21T-80, authorization for supervisor to sign a contract with MRB Group for schematic design phase services for a new DPW garage facility.
So moved.
Second.
So be it resolved that the resolution 21T-080 adopted on March 3rd, 2021 for the authorization to sign a contract not to exceed $44,000 with MRB Group for schematic design phase services for a new DPW garage facility did not include any additional design services. And whereas the town board has requested additional design services to be performed at a cost of not to exceed $4,500. So now, therefore, be it resolved that this resolution 21T-080 is hereby amended to include the full cost of the contract, including MRB's original proposal, at a cost of $44,000, and the additional design services at a cost of $4,500, for a total cost not to exceed $50,000. Be it further resolved, the town board approves appropriation of $48,500 from the unassigned general fund balance as an amendment to the 2021 budget for these design services. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion, board. Seeing no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Amendment to Resolution 21T-132, authorization for supervisor to sign a contract with Bergman PC for an existing conditions assessment and evaluation services of the Clark House.
So moved.
Second.
So be it resolved that the Resolution 21T-132, adopted on June 2nd, 2021, for the authorization to sign a contract not to exceed $72,260 with Bergman PC for an existing conditions assessment and evaluation services of the Clark House did not include any reimbursable expenses for environmental testing of scanning equipment. So therefore, be it resolved that Resolution 21T-132 is hereby amended to show the full cost of the contract, including Bergman's original proposal, at a cost of $72,260, and a reimbursable expenses at a cost of $2,500, for a total cost not to exceed $74,760. So be it further resolved that the town board approves appropriation of the $74,760 from the unassigned general fund balance as an amendment to the 2021 budget for these evaluation services. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion, board. Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Amendment to Resolution 21T-199, authorization for supervisor to sign a contract with Sessler Environmental Services for selective demolition and minor abatement services to accommodate further investigations of the Clark House.
So moved.
Second.
So be it resolved that the Resolution 21T-199, adopted on October 20th, 2021, for the authorization to sign a contract not to exceed $15,800 with Sessler Environmental Services for selective demolition and minor abatement services to accommodate further investigations of the Clark House, did not include the costs for the contract. So now, therefore, be it resolved that the Resolution 21T-199 is hereby amended to show the correct costs of the contract to be $15,850. Be it further resolved, the Town Board approves appropriation of these $15,850 from the unassigned general fund balance as amendment to the 2021 budget for these professional services. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion by the board. Seems like a minor amount. However, when the board passes a resolution and sets a specific dollar amount, if there is any change to that, we are required to amend that to make sure that the proper amount is shown not only for our auditors, but also for state auditors. Seeing no further discussion, I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Authorization for supervisor to sign a contract with Kenyon Pipeline Inspection LLC for sanitary sewer rehabilitation services.
So moved.
Second.
So be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized to sign a contract not to exceed $17,985 for sanitary sewer repair services with Kenyon Pipeline Inspection LLC, 68 Park Road, Queensbury, New York, to provide a cured-in-place pipeliner within a sanitary sewer main behind the plaza at 2505 Browncroft Boulevard. This resolution, the proposal submitted by Kenyon Pipeline Inspection, shall constitute the contract. This agreement to be reviewed and approved by the town attorney. Be it further resolved, the town board approves appropriation of the $17,985 from the sewer fund balance as an amendment to the 2021 budget for these repair services. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion, board. See no further discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes. Roadway dedications for 2021.
So moved.
Second.
So whereas the following developers and owners have made application to the Highway Department of the Town of Penfield for their final dedication of town highways in the Town of Penfield, as noted in the following and described more fully on the subdivision plat maps listed below, which have been approved by the Board of Jurisdiction and have dedicated and released the necessary lands owned by them for the proposed highways. They are the Insight Land Development Incorporated, which is the Stafford Park subdivision, a portion of Dermis Lane, and Entomasa Homes on Watersong Phase 3B, which is the remaining portions of the Watersong Trail and Sea-Watch Trail. So therefore, be it further resolved that the town board hereby accepts dedication of the roads or portions thereof as described above, all in accordance with Section 171 of the Highway Law of the State of New York.
Thank you. Discussion. This is a typical resolution we get this time of the year. This turns those roads over for plowing or final plowing by this our DPW and by this community. So with that, seeing no further discussion, I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
Thank you.
5 ayes.
This brings us to old business. Is there any old business to come before the board this evening? Seeing none. Is there any new business to come before the board this evening? Again, seeing none. This is the second opportunity for public participation. You can do that one of 3 ways. If you're here in the auditorium, you can address the board. You can call in at 340-8771, or you can log on at penfield.org and send in an email. So there is no one in the auditorium. I'll give it just a moment to see if we have any emails or calls. I will mention at this time that next Saturday the 13th, there will be our next organized walk of the Trails Committee. This month, they are tackling Sherwood Fields, and Sherwood Fields is off Route 441. The driveway going into Sherwood Fields is east of Harris Road, and that driveway is shared right off of the right-of-way of Station 3 for the Penfield Fire District. We will have Trail Committee members that will lead that hike. It starts at 10 o'clock, and typically those hikes last for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And Sherwood Fields, there's really two components. There is both former farmland. One has been mowed, and there is more secondary trails. And then on the back part that's separated by the commission ditch, there's more tertiary trails for those hikers that want a little bit more of an adventure. And again, that is next Saturday, 10 o'clock, Sherwood Fields, off en Route 441. Seeing no calls and seeing no emails coming in, I will declare that the November 3rd, 2021 legislative session of the Penfield Town Board stands adjourned at 8:40 p.m. Thank you for everyone that participated this evening, and thank you to PCTV, who makes this available for all of our residents. As always, please be well and be safe.